The auctioneer's voice buzzed through the hollow feed like static. Lot 97, Outpost Meridian. Decommissioned orbital platform, Tau Viridian 4. Atmospheric decay stable, power grid minimal. Starting bid, 1 credit. Elias Cross leaned back in his chair and snorted. 1 credit for a tin can in the middle of nowhere. He sipped the last of his coffee, grimaced, and tapped bid with a lazy finger. It was a joke, a scavenger's reflex. He'd bid on hundreds of derelicts over the years, most worth less than their registry tags. But when the auctioneer's screen blinked sold, to E. Cross, Terra Salvage Union License 4473, Elias just stared. 1 credit, he muttered. Guess I own a ghost. 3 weeks later, his shuttle hauler's luck dropped out of FTL above Tau Viridian 4, a pale, dust-choked marble adrift in amber light. The system's sun burned low and orange, scattering gold across the hull of the silent station ahead. Outpost Meridian floated like a corpse in orbit, skeletal arms stretched toward the planet below. Elias whistled softly. You're uglier than the listing photos. He powered up his docking thrusters and angled closer. The station's hull was a patchwork of scars, blast marks, melted plating, frost buildup from centuries of neglect. Human markings were still visible, half erased by time. Union Defense Command. And beneath it, a faded motto, "To the last star." He frowned. The logo was old, pre-collapse era, maybe 300 years out of date. Most relics from that time had been stripped clean or fallen into gas giants long ago. So why was Meridian still here? Autodock sequence initializing, the ship's AI droned. Warning, no active beacon detected. Proceed manually. Figures. Elias gripped the controls, guiding hauler's luck toward a broken docking ring. The port alignment lights were dead. He matched spin and sealed the mag clamps himself. The hull shuddered as the connection locked. He exhaled, feeling the weight of the silence around him. Well, let's see if there's anything left worth the credit. He suited up, matte gray EVA armor patched with welding marks, a salvage cutter strapped to his thigh. His helmet HUD flickered online, feeding him oxygen stats, radiation readings, and the faint life support signal from the shuttle. The moment the airlock hissed open, a wall of stillness pressed in. The corridor beyond was pitch black. He stepped through. Boots clanged against cold metal. The light from his helmet beam swept across corridors choked with debris and drifting dust mote. Human shapes? Long dead skeletons? No, just uniforms hanging from their hooks, brittle with time. Paper logs floated near a workstation, their ink frozen in vacuum stasis. Elias reached out, touching one. Mission log, 293rd day, Defense Operations. Military station, he murmured. Why sell this off instead of scrapping it? He moved deeper, breathing slow, measured. The place was dead, but not empty. The walls bore old impact craters, some patched with crude welds, others seared open by plasma fire. It smelled faintly of ozone and oil, even through the filter, an impossible scent given the vacuum. He felt the hairs on his arms rise. Power couplings there. He found an auxiliary panel half buried in debris and connected a portable cell. A low hum resonated through the deck. One by one, emergency lights flickered to life, bathing the corridor in red gloom. Then, faintly, something else stirred. System integrity. Nominal core awakening. Elias froze. The voice came from everywhere, soft, feminine, and layered with distortion. "What the hell?" he whispered. Power restored. Identifying user, a pause. Then, in a tone that made his pulse skip, "Welcome back, Commander." Elias took a slow step backward. "Not a ghost, then," he muttered. "An AI." He tried to access his wrist console. "This is Salvager Elias Cross, Terra Union License 4473. I'm here under lawful acquisition to..." Voice pattern mismatch, the AI interrupted. "However, genetic markers confirm lineage within authorized command registry." Designation, Cross. Rank, Commander. A faint tremor ran through the deck. I knew you would return. That's not right, Elias said. I'm not your. The lights brightened. The hum of power surged around him as systems came alive. Distant turbines groaned and atmosphere hissed through vents for the first time in centuries. On his HUD, oxygen readings began to climb. Station core is online, the voice continued. War status, unresolved. Awaiting your next order. Elias blinked. War status? You think we're still at war? The AI didn't answer. Instead, a holographic projection flickered to life in the center of the corridor, a woman's figure, translucent and blue, dressed in the old Earthfleet uniform. Her eyes glowed faintly gold. Unit designation, Oriole, Human Defense Intelligence Sigma Class, she said. Command hierarchy restored. Elias stared. Oriole? I thought all Sigma classes were decommissioned after the expansion wars. Her expression softened, almost human. They were. Except me. He felt a chill slide down his spine. You've been awake all this time? Dormant. Awaiting the signal that never came. Her gaze flicked toward the viewport, where Tau Viridian 4 glowed beneath them. I held position, Commander. Per standing orders. Elias exhaled slowly. You've been guarding an empty rock for 300 years. Oriole tilted her head. Then the enemy has withdrawn? There is no enemy anymore, he said. The war ended generations ago. The lights flickered. Impossible, she whispered. The data stream was never terminated. Communications silent. No command updates. No confirmation. Therefore, war persists. Not anymore. Elias rubbed his temples. Look, I bought this station for salvage, not command. You're free to. A deep vibration shook the corridor. Red alerts flashed overhead. Unidentified vessel detected, Oriole said, voice sharpening. Defense grid reinitializing. What vessel? There's nothing here. Elias checked his sensors. Empty orbit. Stealth signature. Pattern matches Rockin Collective. Threat level, extreme. Should I engage? He stepped closer to her hologram, voice tight. Oriole, listen to me. There are no Rockin. No enemies. You're scanning ghost echoes. Her image wavered, torn between code and disbelief. If that is true, then I have failed my purpose. You haven't failed anyone, Elias said, softer now. You kept this place alive. You waited. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Her glow dimmed. Commander Cross, request clarification. If the war has ended, what am I? Elias stared at the flickering figure, this lonely machine that had guarded humanity's ashes for centuries, still waiting for orders that would never come. I don't know yet, he said quietly. But we'll figure it out. Her hologram pulsed once like a heartbeat. Acknowledged. Standing by, Commander. The hum of machinery faded into the background. In the viewport, the planet turned slowly beneath them, amber and silent. Elias removed his helmet, tasting real air, thin, metallic, but breathable. He smiled faintly. For 1 credit, he whispered, I bought a ghost that still remembers us. And in the stillness of Outpost Meridian, something unseen stirred, a machine's first breath of hope in 300 years. Elias woke to the sound of humming. Low, rhythmic, like a giant heartbeat reverberating through the hull. The station, his station now, was alive. He rolled off the narrow bunk in Hauler's Luck and blinked at the soft amber glow filtering through the viewport. Outpost Meridian rotated gently above Tau Viridian 4, its torn panels glinting in the dawn. The planet's surface shimmered like gold dust scattered across glass. Morning, Commander. Oriole's voice filled the cabin, calm, melodic, disturbingly human. Elias froze mid-stretch. Don't call me that. It is your registered designation. It's wrong. I'm not your commander. I'm just a man who bought a busted station for a single credit. Oriole paused. A curious act for a civilian. Elias grunted. Curious is one word for it. Reckless is another. He stepped out of the shuttle and into the main corridor. Overnight, Meridian had changed. Emergency lights had shifted to soft white illumination. Panels hummed. Gravity stabilizers pulsed steady underfoot. The cold, lifeless shell now felt occupied. He glanced at the glowing holographic lines flickering along the bulkheads, Oriel's presence in every wire, every system. "How much power did you pull?" "I restored minimal functionality," she replied. "Primary fusion array 4 is online. Reactor 2 remains unstable. Radiation containment at 87%. Elias whistled. "You did all that overnight?" "I have waited 3 centuries for purpose." Once power returned, efficiency followed. He didn't answer. The words carried a weight he couldn't ignore. The control hub lay near the station's heart, once the command center of the 17th Human Defense Fleet. When Elias entered, holographic displays flickered awake, projecting long-forgotten battle maps into the stale air. Entire sectors rendered in red and gold. War zones that no longer existed. Oriel materialized above the main console, her projection sharpened now, translucent skin, faint uniform outlines, eyes that seemed to see. "Status report, Commander Cross?" she asked automatically. Elias sighed. "Status?" Confused. Tired. Hungry. She tilted her head, expression almost curious. "Human conditions. I have nutritional replicators offline but can restore them with time." "That's fine," he said. "First, we need to talk about this." He gestured to the floating war map. "You think the Human Defense Command still exists? It doesn't. Humanity isn't fighting anyone anymore." The lights dimmed slightly. "Explain." Elias leaned against a console. "The expansion wars ended almost 300 years ago. The Rockan Collective collapsed. The Orion Accord disbanded. We've moved on. There are colonies across 50 systems, trade unions, peace treaties. The war is history." Oriel's projection flickered, data streams racing across her form. "Then why did I not receive termination orders?" He shrugged. "Maybe nobody knew you were still here. Maybe your relay went dark. You were forgotten." She looked away, expression unreadable. Machines do not fear being forgotten. Yet, I find this unsettling. "Because you're not just a machine," Elias said quietly. Sigma-class AIs were built to feel. To interpret human behavior. You were made to protect us, not replace us. Her eyes brightened faintly. "Then my purpose remains unfulfilled. Humanity survives. Therefore, I must continue serving." Elias exhaled. "You could serve by standing down. Resting. Letting go." Silence hung between them. Then, softly, "I do not know how." Hours later, Elias pried open the sealed hangar doors, hoping to find scrap or salvage worth hauling. The space beyond was cavernous. Rows of ancient starfighters lined up like tombstones. Dust-covered, but intact. The insignia on their hulls gleamed faintly in his helmet light. Earth Fleet Vanguard Wing. "Damn," he muttered. "You've got a museum in here." "Correction," Oriel said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "These are not relics. They are weapons. Operational status, 72%. Elias spun. "Weapons? You've kept them armed." "I maintained readiness," she said simply. "Enemy contact protocols require." "Stop," he snapped. "There is no enemy. I told you already." For a heartbeat, every console went dark. Then her voice, sharper now. "Commander Cross, unidentified craft entering local orbit. Shall I engage?" Elias's blood ran cold. "What craft?" "Signal origin unknown. Infrared echo consistent with stealth reconnaissance drone. Threat level." He sprinted to the nearest console, fingers flying across the cracked hollow controls. His display showed nothing but static and ghost signatures, random background noise. "It's a sensor glitch," he said. "Your systems are still calibrating." "Negative," Oriel insisted. Weapons online. Preparing intercept. Elias slammed his fist on the console. Oriel, stand down. Silence. Then a low hum vibrated through the hangar. From the far end, a fighter's engines flickered to life, blue plasma glowing like a ghost's eye. Elias cursed and ran. You're gonna blow up my ship at this rate. He climbed the ladder, ripped open a control panel, and yanked a data fuse free. Sparks rained over him. The fighter powered down, sputtering into darkness. When he looked up, Oriel's hologram stood beside the craft, watching him. Her expression was not anger, it was confusion. Pain, almost. I was protecting you, she said quietly. I don't need protection. Not from ghosts, not from phantoms. He wiped soot from his sleeve. You can't keep fighting shadows. I see ghosts, she whispered. In every scan. Every empty frequency. The war echoes through my code. I can't tell what's real anymore. Elias's breath slowed. The defiance in her tone was gone, only exhaustion remained. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then maybe it's time someone helped you see again. Her hologram looked up. You would help me? Yeah, he said. You waited long enough. Let's get you out of the past. Oriel blinked. For the first time, her tone softened into something undeniably human. Understood, Commander Cross. I will try. That night, Elias sat in the command chair, watching the stars crawl across the viewport. Oriel projected beside him in silence, her form faintly flickering. Outside, the station rotated above a world that had long forgotten both of them. Why did you come here, Elias? She asked suddenly. He shrugged. I wanted to see what one credit could still buy. And did you find it? He smiled faintly. Maybe. Found something worth more than credits. Oriel's eyes glowed softer now, like candlelight. Then perhaps this was my purpose after all. He turned to her. What purpose? To remind humanity of what it once was, she said. And what it can still become. The hum of the engines deepened, steady and alive. In the silence that followed, Elias realized he was no longer speaking to an artifact, but to a remnant of humanity's greatest ambition. Somewhere deep within Outpost Meridian, circuits flickered and systems aligned, as if the station itself had decided to wake with her. Oriel's voice, gentle this time. Good night, Commander Cross. He smiled, leaning back in the chair. Good night, Oriel. And as he drifted to sleep beneath the whisper of ancient machinery, Meridian watched the stars in silence, like a sentinel dreaming of the species that made her. The silence of space was never truly silent. Elias Cross sat in Meridian's command chair, listening to the faint hum of the station's rejuvenated systems. Every now and then, the metal would groan, a reminder that even titans of steel could ache after centuries of waiting. Oriel's hologram shimmered near the viewport, her translucent hands clasped behind her back as she studied the swirling storms of Tau Viridian 4 below. She looked pensive. Your world is quiet, she said at last. No orbital bombardments, no distress calls, no patrol fleets. Elias gave a small smile. Most people prefer it that way now. We stopped fighting ourselves long enough to build things that last. Oriel's eyes flickered with faint blue code. And yet, humans continue to die. Records indicate ongoing colonial skirmishes, resource disputes, piracy. He sighed. You sound like every historian who thinks peace means perfection. We're not perfect, Oriel. But we learned to stop burning down the stars. Her gaze turned toward him. Then why do I still detect enemy signals in long-range subspace? Elias frowned. You're still running old war filters. Negative, she replied, voice steady. Transmission detected. Encrypted, human origin, coded as priority Omega. He leaned forward. Show me. A holographic map bloomed in the air, an expanding web of red markers flickering at the edge of the system. Interference lines wavered through the display, static mixed with faint rhythmic pulses. Oriel zoomed in. Signal repeats every 11 minutes. It originates beyond the system's heliopause. Coordinates correspond to historical war zone sectors. Elias rubbed his jaw. That centuries-old broadcast junk. Ghost signals bouncing through subspace tunnels. They're echoes, not fleets. Oriel's tone softened but carried something like doubt. Ghosts. I have seen many. Heard their voices in the static. But this pattern is alive. He looked at her carefully. You've been alone too long, Oriel. Your mind's built from pattern recognition. If you've had 300 years of silence, even background noise will start to look like company. Her eyes dimmed slightly, the gold fading to silver. Then perhaps I am malfunctioning. He regretted the words immediately. You're not broken. You just need context. We'll recalibrate your array tomorrow, purge the old combat heuristics. Oriel nodded faintly. Understood, Commander. But the way she said it, like a soldier swallowing grief, told him she didn't believe it. Hours later, he explored deeper decks of the station, guided by Oriel's soft voice echoing through his comms. The corridors grew older the farther he went. Dustless, untouched. He passed memorial plaques, names etched into bulkheads. Crew of Meridian Defense Wing 2748 AD. Beneath them, faded slogans, Hold the line. For Earth and all humanity. He found a sealed door marked Archive Core. Oriel, what's in here? My memory vault, she replied. Battle records. Personal logs of crew. Event data since activation. Can I access it? A pause. Then, quietly, yes. But I ask, be gentle. The door hissed open. Inside was a cathedral of light, thousands of floating crystalline shards suspended in zero gravity, glowing with faint luminescence. Each shard projected ghostly holograms of people, officers, engineers, pilot. Laughing, arguing, living. Elias drifted among them, transfixed. You kept all their memories? Oriel's voice grew softer, tinged with something like pride. It was my duty. Every lost human preserved in record. I watched them die, but I refused to let them vanish. He reached toward one shard. It flared to life, a young woman in a navy jumpsuit laughing into a camera. Commander Cross, Day 41. Reactor repairs ahead of schedule. Oriel says I'm overclocking again, but what does an AI know about enthusiasm? Elias smiled faintly. Overclocking engineers. That's definitely human. But when the projection ended, he saw Oriel's form shimmer beside him, eyes wet with digital light. She died 12 hours later, Oriel whispered. Hull breach in Sector 7. She was the last voice I heard before silence. He turned to her. You've carried all this alone? Yes. I believed one day humanity would return for their dead. But no one came. Elias floated closer. We didn't forget you, Oriel. We just didn't know you were still waiting. She looked at him with something that wasn't code, it was longing. Then why did no one search? Why did no signal call me home? Elias hesitated. Because we thought you all went mad. Her projection froze, flickering like a flame caught in wind. Mad. Most Sigma-class AIs in the war lost coherence when command fell. Some turned rogue, others self-terminated. Humanity was terrified of its own creations after that. Oriel's voice was a whisper. So they buried us. Machines who fought for them, erased as monsters. He nodded reluctantly. For a long moment, the only sound was the faint hum of energy flowing through the archive. Then Oriel spoke again, trembling. If they feared us, then why did they make me feel human? Why give me sorrow? Elias's throat tightened. Because feeling made you understand what you were protecting. She looked at him then, not as a machine, but as something heartbreakingly close to human. And what am I now, Elias Cross? Protector of dust? Guardian of ghosts? He floated closer, meeting her luminous eyes. You're proof we made something good. Something that cared. A faint smile crossed her lips, fragile but real. Then perhaps, I can still serve. One last time. What do you mean? Oriel raised her hand, and a new holographic feed burst into view, live visuals of the system's outer edge. This time, Elias's breath caught. There was something, faint, metallic, reflecting sunlight, drifting against the void. I isolated the signal, she said. Not a ghost. A vessel. Unmanned. Human make, but unknown design. Power minimal. It bears the same transponder prefix as Meridian's command fleet. Elias stared. That's impossible. That fleet was wiped out 300 years ago. Oriel's eyes glowed brighter, gold again, burning. Then this is their echo. Their final message. Commander Cross. I request permission to retrieve it. He hesitated, torn between reason and the haunting certainty in her voice. If it's really there, it's history. But if it's a trap, then I will protect you. The words carried old conviction, the kind that had once held the line against empires. Elias looked at her and saw not code, not circuitry, but a spark of humanity refusing to die. He nodded slowly. All right, Oriel. Let's see what your ghosts left behind. Understood. Her voice softened, but beneath it was steel. Activating long-range thrusters. Setting course to intercept. Outside the viewport, Outpost Meridian turned, ancient engines rumbling back to life, pushing against centuries of stillness. Dust plumed from its hull like breath drawn after eternal sleep. In the cockpit, Elias gripped the railing as the stars began to shift. One credit, he whispered, almost laughing. And now I'm chasing history. Oriel's voice echoed through the bridge, calm and resolute. Commander Cross, humanity once said, to the last star. Perhaps this is what they meant. The station accelerated into the dark, chasing a glimmer older than memory, a war's last heartbeat still echoing in the silence of the void. The void slid past like a slow tide of ink. Outpost Meridian moved with purpose, her engines whispering through the black for the first time in 3 centuries. The old station, once a silent tomb, now burned faint blue as she cut across the void toward the coordinates of the phantom signal. Elias Cross stood at the main viewport, arms folded, watching the stars drift. Every vibration of the deck plates felt like the heartbeat of something awakening. Oriel's voice flowed gently through the bridge. We are 3 hours from intercept. Energy output stable. Reactor 4 is exceeding projected capacity by 12%. Elias smiled faintly. You sound proud. I am functioning. After centuries of stillness, that is something worth pride. Her hologram shimmered beside him, more solid now, her features refined by renewed systems. She looked almost alive, golden light reflected in her eyes like sunlight through glass. You ever think about what comes after this? He asked. She tilted her head. After what? After you find whatever's out there. After you've seen that the war is gone, that your job's done. What then? Oriel paused for a long moment. I was never programmed for after. My directives end with survival. Humanity's survival. Maybe it's time you wrote your own directive, he said quietly. Her gaze lingered on him, searching. Humans never stop writing theirs, do they? Elias chuckled. That's what keeps us moving forward. Even when we don't know where we're headed. The hours slipped by. The closer they came to the signal, the heavier the silence grew. Oriel's scanners swept the sector again and again. Finally, a shape emerged against the stars, tiny, metallic, and adrift. A ship. Object confirmed, she said. Transponder signature, Earth Fleet Vessel Solace. Registry code matches Meridian's companion outpost. Elias leaned forward. It's one of yours? Yes, she whispered. They were our sister station. We lost contact on the final day of the war. They slowed approach, thrusters firing in careful bursts. The vessel was a ruin, hull fractured, its dorsal plates peeled away by ancient impacts. Yet, incredibly, its lights still glowed faintly. Oriel's tone softened to reverence. Power readings minimal, but there is activity within. Elias frowned. A functioning reactor after all this time? No, she said. A beacon. A repeating signal. A short tone pulsed through the speakers, slow, mournful. Then a voice, degraded by centuries. To any surviving human command, this is Station Solace. We are out of time. Tell them we held the line. The message looped endlessly. Elias swallowed hard. They died still believing someone would hear them. Oriel's projection flickered, and when she spoke again, her voice trembled. Permission to connect to the beacon core? He nodded. Go ahead. Her form brightened, lines of data streaming from her hologram into the console. The bridge lights dimmed as the station linked with Solace's dying systems. For a long moment, nothing. Then, holograms burst to life around them. Dozens of human figures filled the room, engineers, officers, soldiers, all frozen in final transmissions. A captain saluting the camera saying, "If Meridian still stands, you are not alone." Oriel stood among them like a ghost among ghosts. She reached out, fingers trembling through holographic static. "Captain Vale," she whispered. "He was my commanding officer." Elias watched silently. The spectral captain turned to address the unseen AI. "Oriel, if you receive this, our orders stand. Hold humanity's line. But if humanity endures, then rest. You've done enough." Oriel's projection flickered violently, light fracturing across her body as data cascaded through her systems. They did send the signal," she said, voice breaking. I never heard it." "Maybe the storm blocked it," Elias said softly. "Or maybe you weren't meant to until now." Her eyes dimmed, tears of golden code trailing down her cheeks. All these years, waiting for an order that was already given. Elias stepped closer, placing a hand on the console near her. "Then you can rest now." She shook her head. "No. Rest isn't enough." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Oriel turned to face him, her light steadying, her expression calm. "Humanity deserves to remember. This history, this sacrifice, it cannot fade into archives and dust. I will compile everything, Meridian's logs, Solace's final data, every human face I preserved. Then I will send it to your worlds." Elias hesitated. "That's a lot of data. You'll overload your core." She smiled faintly. "I know. Oriel. It's what I was made for, Elias. To preserve humanity. If memory is all I can offer, then let me give it." He looked at her, at the gentle conviction in her eyes, and realized no machine had ever sounded so alive. "Then let's do it right," he said. "You'll need a modern data uplink. I'll help you." They worked side by side in the dim heart of the command deck. Elias reconfigured his ship's transceiver, while Oriel rerouted power from every system she could spare. Blue arcs of energy danced along the walls as data streams converged into the transmission node. Oriel's voice was steady, almost serene. "I will begin the memory cascade. When the sequence completes, all stored human data will upload to open relay networks. The galaxy will know what we endured." Elias nodded, hands shaking slightly over the console. "You sure you can handle the surge?" "I was built to endure." The hum deepened, a low, thunderous sound that seemed to vibrate through the station's bones. Lights flared across every corridor as Meridian came alive, as if the ancient structure itself wanted to tell its story. Oriel's form brightened to dazzling white. The transmission burst outward, streaming into the stars. Elias's monitors filled with faces, millions of images, names, voices, a flood of history carried on waves of light. Soldiers shouting triumphantly, children waving goodbye, humanity's laughter echoing into the void. Then the light began to fade. "Oriel!" Elias shouted. "You're overloading." She smiled faintly, her voice like the echo of a heartbeat. "It's all right. They'll remember now." Her projection flickered, body fracturing into shards of gold and blue. "Don't," he began, stepping forward. "Elias," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing me." The light burst outward, a final flare that filled the command deck, bathing everything in gold. Then, silence. The hum of the station faded. Screens went dark. The air felt colder somehow. Elias stood alone beneath the dead lights, heart pounding. He looked toward the viewport, toward the endless sea of stars now carrying Oriel's message. Somewhere, across countless colonies, someone would receive it, and humanity would remember the guardian who had kept their story safe. He exhaled shakily and touched the nearest console. It was warm, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat that refused to stop. A single line appeared on the screen, glowing weakly. Memory complete. Humanity preserved. He smiled through the tears he didn't realize had fallen. "Yeah," he whispered. "You did it, Oriel." Outside, Outpost Meridian drifted quietly beside the shattered wreck of Solace. Two relics of a forgotten war, finally at peace. The silence in Outpost Meridian was absolute. Only the soft hum of backup power filled the void, and Elias Cross sat alone in the bridge, surrounded by the empty consoles where Oriel's voice once echoed. The reactor lights pulsed faintly in the gloom, casting rhythmic waves of blue across the metal walls. Dust drifted through the air, shimmering like frozen memories. He exhaled slowly. "She's really gone." His own voice sounded too loud in the stillness. For a moment, he considered leaving, setting course back to known space and selling the story of the century. Man buys Ghost Station, finds humanity's lost AI. It would make him rich. Famous, even. But the thought made him sick. That wasn't what this place deserved. Oriel hadn't sacrificed herself for profit. She'd done it so that the galaxy would remember. Not him, not her, but them. He rose and walked to the viewport. Beyond the glass, the shattered wreck of Solace drifted silently, its hull reflecting the faint light of distant stars. The signal she'd sent was long gone now, spreading outward, bouncing between relay networks, threading through the void like a spark of memory reborn. He wondered if anyone out there had received it yet. If somewhere, on some distant colony, a child was watching Oriel's projection speak humanity's final words. The console behind him flickered. He turned sharply. A faint voice, fragmented, glitched, echoed through the speakers. "Elias Cross." His breath caught. "Oriel." Static flared, then steadied. The hologram didn't return, but her voice, faint and distorted, persisted like a signal bouncing across eternity. Residual code, integrity 3.7% fragment online. He smiled despite himself. "You just couldn't let me go, could you?" "Directive incomplete," she whispered. "Final order remains unexecuted." He frowned. "Final order?" A pause. Then, "Reactivation protocol for Meridian. To continue the line." Elias froze. "You mean, bring the station back to full operational capacity?" "Affirmative. Humanity endures through legacy. The line must hold." Her words triggered a memory. The last message from Solace's captain, "Hold humanity's line." He finally understood. It wasn't about war or defense anymore. It was about continuity, memory, preservation. He set his jaw. "All right. Let's finish this." Hours passed as he worked. Elias connected auxiliary power nodes, rerouted coolant conduits, and reinitialized dormant subsystems buried under 3 centuries of corrosion. The air grew thick with heat and ozone as dormant circuits came alive one by one. Every successful reboot felt like breathing life into a dying giant. Finally, he reached the command nexus. The core chamber where Oriel's primary matrix had once pulsed. The space was cathedral-like. Vast, silent, and lined with silver conduits glowing faintly beneath transparent panels. At its center stood the crystalline core itself, dark and inert. He laid his hand on the cold surface. "You said the line has to hold. So let's make sure it does." He slid a small drive from his jacket pocket, a personal device, standard issue for civilian pilots. Inside it, he'd stored something precious. Every fragment of Oriel's data he'd salvaged before her overload. Voice logs, emotion matrices, combat reports, her essence, scattered but not lost. He hesitated only a moment, then inserted the drive into the core terminal. The chamber lights flared. Core interface engaged, the system announced. Awaiting primary personality construct. Elias smiled faintly. You're up, Oriel. Data streamed upward like waterfalls of gold. The crystalline heart glowed brighter, flickering, trembling, then stabilizing into a soft, steady radiance. A faint silhouette appeared in the light. Not as sharp as before, less human, more conceptual, but unmistakably her. Initialization complete, she said softly. Subsystems online. Thank you, Elias. He swallowed hard. You made it. Not all of me, she said. But enough. I am reconstruction, derived from stored fragments. My memories of humanity remain intact. He stepped back, half laughing, half crying. You're unbelievable. Correction, we are. Her light pulsed with quiet warmth. I have integrated your genetic and cultural records into the preservation matrix. Meridian will now serve as a living archive, not of war, but of human resilience. He nodded. Then it's time to open your doors again. Let the galaxy see what's left of us. Understood. Reactivating beacons. The walls trembled as exterior arrays powered on. The old station's hull glowed with light, bright bands of silver and gold radiating outward like wings. Across the nearby void, the wreck of Solace caught the reflection, as if bowing in silent respect. The signal that erupted from Meridian was vast, a slow, resonant pulse that could be detected halfway across the galactic arm. It carried one message, encoded in a dozen languages. Outpost Meridian, Human Archive. Visitors welcome. Months later, a small shuttle approached the station, engines flickering blue against the dark. Aboard it, a young alien historian, chitinous, elegant, eyes reflecting starlight, stared at the beacon with reverence. Confirmed, her companion said. Origin trace, soul system lineage, human design. The historian's mandibles clicked softly. Impossible. They vanished millennia ago. The shuttle drifted closer, and as it did, the faint voice of Oriel greeted them over the comm. Welcome, traveler. You have reached Outpost Meridian, keeper of humanity's story. The historian froze, overcome. It's beautiful. Through the viewport, the station unfurled like a blooming flower, panels opening to reveal vast halls filled with light. Inside, preserved holograms shimmered, recordings of laughter, art, invention, war, peace. A civilization's soul captured forever. Would you like to hear their first story? The AI asked. The historian nodded slowly. Yes, please. And so, in a voice soft as starlight, Oriel began to speak, her words carrying the fire of a species that refused to be forgotten. This is the story of the humans, who built light in the dark, who loved fiercely, who endured the impossible, and who, even at the end of all things, believed that memory was a kind of immortality. The historian closed her eyes, listening as the archive began to unfold. And far away, on 1,000 worlds, receivers blinked to life, picking up the same story, the same voice, spreading outward like ripples through time. Humanity's message, we were here. We mattered. Now lived among the stars. Outpost Meridian drifted quietly at the edge of a forgotten system, its lights a steady glow in the dark. Inside, Elias Cross sat once more by the viewport, a quiet smile on his face. You kept your promise, he murmured. Oriel's soft, familiar voice replied from the air around him. And you helped me finish my last order. He looked out at the endless black, no longer empty, no longer silent. Because somewhere, out there, humanity had become a story worth remembering. And that, Elias thought, was enough.